Kofi, do not enter that cursed forest! I do not fear the darkness. Do not cross the sacred stones. The impossible forest awaits. Beyond them lies only death.
For 700 years, an ancient African forest hunted anyone who dared enter it. Warriors vanished, kings disappeared, entire families were never seen again. But no one knew the terrifying truth hidden beneath its roots. Today, one fearless hunter is about to cross the forbidden boundary to rescue his kidnapped sister. He believes he's entering a cursed forest, but the forest isn't the real monster. What awakens beneath it will decide the fate of humanity forever. The first crimson light of dawn revealed something impossible beyond the farmlands of Umudara village. Where open grasslands had stretched the previous evening, an enormous forest now stood, cloaked in silver mist. Ancient trees towered like silent giants, their twisted branches weaving across the sky and blocking the morning sun. Birds refused to sing. Even the wind seemed afraid to enter. Villagers abandoned their chores and gathered at the outskirts, staring in terrified silence. Every elder recognized the dreadful sign immediately. After 7 peaceful years, the cursed forest had returned, hungering once again for a soul to claim before disappearing forever. Women clutched their children while hunters lowered their spears, unwilling to face the impossible sight before them. Elder Bako, his weathered face marked by decades of wisdom, slowly stepped forward, gripping his carved ebony staff. His trembling voice carried across the fearful crowd. "Do not cross the sacred stones," he warned. "This forest remembers every broken promise our ancestors ever made." Nobody questioned him. They all knew the stories. Every 7 years, the forest appeared without warning. Many entered seeking glory, riches, or missing loved ones. All eventually returned, except one mysterious traveler who vanished forever without explanation or farewell. Far from the frightened gathering, Kofi, Umudara's most respected young hunter, sprinted through tall elephant grass, carrying a freshly hunted antelope across his broad shoulders. 26 years old, dark-skinned, tall, powerfully built, with braided black hair tied behind his head, sharp brown eyes, and tribal scar markings upon his cheeks. He wore fitted brown leather hunting garments, reinforced with woven animal hide, sturdy sandals, and carried a handcrafted bow, quiver, and polished spear. His loyal hunting dog suddenly stopped, whimpering toward the distant mist. Kofi looked ahead. The impossible forest stood where empty plains should have been, silently watching him. Kofi hurried home, finding his younger sister, Amina, standing outside their small clay hut with a basket of freshly gathered herbs. 19 years old, graceful, dark-skinned, slender, with expressive brown eyes and neatly braided hair decorated with colorful beads, she wore a fitted indigo wrapper embroidered with traditional patterns, simple bead bracelets, and leather sandals. Despite the fear spreading through the village, she smiled warmly at her brother. "The forest has returned," she whispered, trying to hide her unease. Before Kofi could answer, a strange whisper drifted through the wind. It softly called Amina's name from deep inside the mist. Everyone heard the whisper, except Kofi. Amina's smile slowly disappeared as the haunting voice repeated her name, sounding exactly like their late mother's gentle call. Mesmerized, she stepped toward the village boundary, despite Elder Bako's desperate warning to stay back. The mist thickened unnaturally, curling around her ankles like living fingers. Kofi reached for her hand, but an invisible force pushed him backward. The ground shook violently. Villagers screamed as towering trees shifted closer without moving. Then, before anyone could react, Amina vanished into the silver fog. Only her overturned basket remained, while the forest echoed with chilling laughter. Silence swallowed Umudara village after Amina disappeared. No bird sang, no child cried, and even the cooking fires burned weakly beneath the grey morning sky. Kofi knelt beside the overturned basket, clutching one of Amina's beaded bracelets with trembling fingers. The footprints leading into the mist suddenly ended, as though the earth itself had erased them. Elder Bako approached quietly, his ebony staff scraping against the ground. "Do not follow," he pleaded. "The forest chooses its own paths. Every hunter who ignored that warning returned broken, except the one soul the forest always kept forever from everyone." Kofi slowly rose, his determined eyes fixed upon the towering trees. "She is my sister," he declared firmly. "If the forest demands my life, then it will have to fight for it." The villagers gasped, but no one stepped forward to stop him. Elder Bako reached into a worn leather pouch hanging beneath his robe and removed a small carved wooden pendant shaped like a lion's head. Placing it into Kofi's hand, he whispered, "This belonged to your father. It cannot defeat darkness, but it may remind the forest that courage still walks among men." Kofi bowed respectfully before departing. Standing at the sacred boundary stones, Kofi tightened the leather straps around his fitted hunting garments and checked every weapon carefully. His polished spear rested across his back beside a handcrafted bow and a quiver filled with feathered arrows. The lion pendant hung firmly around his neck, gently tapping against his chest with every heartbeat. Behind him, villagers silently watched, knowing many brave hunters had crossed this same place without fear. None returned unchanged. Taking one steady breath, Kofi stepped beyond the final stone. Instantly, the warm African sunlight vanished, replaced by an eerie twilight beneath impossibly enormous trees that breathed softly. As darkness settled unnaturally across the forest, Kofi discovered something impossible beneath an enormous baobab tree. Resting peacefully against its roots sat an old clay water pot, untouched by time. Beside it lay a hunting spear covered in moss, its wooden handle carved with symbols identical to those his father once used. Kneeling carefully, Kofi brushed away centuries of dirt. Fresh blood suddenly appeared across the ancient blade, dripping onto the ground despite its age. Then a low voice echoed from behind the tree. "You carry your father's courage," it whispered. "But will you survive where he failed?"
Kofi spun instantly, raising his polished spear toward the ancient baobab. The whisper faded, replaced by a chilling silence that pressed against his ears. Slowly, a hooded figure emerged from behind the massive roots, leaning upon a crooked staff wrapped with glowing vines. His weathered face bore countless tribal markings, while white dreadlocks rested across his shoulders like tangled roots. Although appearing elderly, his piercing amber eyes held unnatural strength. The stranger smiled faintly, without revealing fear or kindness. kindness. "Do not waste your spear," he said calmly. "Steel cannot wound those the forest has already claimed as its guardians forever."
Kofi refused to lower his weapon. "Who are you?" he demanded firmly. The old man planted his staff into the earth, causing tiny green lights to circle his feet. "Long ago, I was called Django," he replied. "I entered this forest searching for my wife during the last century. Like you, I believed courage alone could defeat ancient magic." His smile slowly disappeared. "The forest spared my life, but stole my years. I have wandered these living paths ever since, guiding those who still possess hope before darkness consumes their hearts." Kofi sensed honesty hidden beneath sorrowful exhaustion and grief. Django motioned for Kofi to follow, leading him through winding trails that shifted behind every step. Towering trees quietly moved aside before the old guardian, then closed again like watchful gates. Soon, they reached a crystal-clear stream flowing upward into the branches overhead. Within its waters, faces appeared briefly before fading. Kofi recognized frightened hunters, crying children, grieving mothers, and finally, Amina. She reached desperately toward him through the water, silently begging for help. Before Kofi could touch the stream, Django grabbed his arm. "Those are memories," he warned. "Touch them, and the river will steal your own forever." As twilight deepened, distant drums echoed through the forest without visible musicians. Every beat made the trees shudder, releasing glowing leaves that floated like spirits across the air. Django's expression hardened immediately. "We must hide," he whispered urgently. They slipped beneath enormous tangled roots moments before towering creatures marched past. Each stood taller than two men, their bodies formed from bark, vines, and stone. Hollow eyes glowed green beneath crowns of living branches. None spoke. Instead, they listened carefully to every heartbeat around them. One guardian paused beside their hiding place, tilting its massive head suspiciously before continuing into darkness without warning. After the guardians disappeared, Django led Kofi toward a forgotten stone shrine hidden beneath thick vines. Ancient carvings covered every surface, depicting humans, spirits, and a colossal beast imprisoned beneath twisting roots. At the shrine center rested a cracked stone tablet bearing the symbol of Kofi's own family. Shock froze him completely. "Impossible," he whispered. Django nodded slowly. "Your bloodline is tied to this forest more deeply than anyone in Umudara remembers." Before Kofi could ask another question, the ground trembled violently. From beneath the shrine came an earth-shaking roar so powerful that birds dropped lifeless from the sky. The terrifying roar rolled beneath the earth like distant thunder, shaking every tree across the living forest. Cracks spread through the ancient shrine as glowing green light escaped from deep underground. Kofi instinctively steadied himself with his spear, while Django closed his eyes, whispering forgotten prayers beneath his breath. Birds fell silently from the branches, their lifeless bodies disappearing before touching the ground. Even the towering guardian trees bowed slightly, as though acknowledging something far more powerful beneath them. Then the trembling stopped completely, leaving behind a deep, rhythmic sound that resembled the steady heartbeat of an enormous creature sleeping. Django placed his trembling palm upon the cracked stone tablet. "That heartbeat belongs to the devourer," he whispered. Long before our grandfathers' grandfathers were born, it swallowed kingdoms until the forest queen imprisoned it beneath these sacred roots. Kofi stared at the carvings surrounding them. They showed warriors kneeling before a radiant woman, while monstrous shadows consumed villages beyond the mountains. One image captured his attention above all others. A hunter bearing the exact lion pendant around Kofi's neck stood among the betrayers. Confusion tightened his chest as impossible questions flooded his mind with growing fear and disbelief. Determined to uncover the truth, Kofi traced the carved hunter's face with careful fingers. Suddenly, brilliant green light burst from the tablet, surrounding him completely. The shrine disappeared. Kofi found himself standing inside an ancient battlefield beneath a blood-red sky. Thousands of terrified villagers fled while a colossal shadow beast devoured everything before it. Warriors fought bravely but vanished beneath endless darkness. Then, Kofi saw the radiant queen raising her glowing staff as roots erupted from the earth, imprisoning the monstrous creature forever. Before the vision faded, one warrior removed the lion pendant and abandoned the queen during her greatest battle. Kofi staggered backward as the vision dissolved, breathing heavily while sweat covered his face. "That warrior wore my family's pendant," he murmured painfully. Django lowered his head. "Your ancestor was once sworn to protect the forest queen. Instead, fear overcame him. He deserted her when she needed every warrior beside her." Silence hung heavily between them. "His betrayal nearly destroyed the world," Django continued softly. "The queen survived, but she sacrificed her humanity to imprison the devourer forever. Since then, the forest has waited patiently for your bloodline to remember its forgotten promise." Kofi remained speechless with overwhelming guilt. Before Kofi could answer, a cold breeze swept through the shrine, carrying the delicate scent of wild jasmine. A graceful female voice echoed from every direction. "The son of the betrayer finally walks my forest." Silver mist gathered above the cracked altar, slowly forming the shimmering silhouette of an elegant woman crowned with living vines and glowing white blossoms. Her luminous eyes held neither hatred nor mercy, only endless sorrow stretching across centuries. Kofi realized he was standing before the immortal forest queen herself. She looked directly into his soul before speaking one chilling sentence. "Your sister still lives. For now." The shimmering figure stepped gracefully from the silver mist until her bare feet touched the ancient shrine. The forest queen appeared neither young nor old, her dark skin glowing with faint emerald light beneath flowing robes woven from living vines and leaves. Long black hair cascaded over her shoulders, intertwined with white blossoms that never withered. A crown of twisting roots rested upon her brow, while her luminous eyes reflected centuries of sorrow. Every tree surrounding the shrine bent respectfully toward her. Kofi felt an invisible weight forcing him to one knee, yet the queen never lifted a single hand against him. "Rise, Kofi," the queen said calmly. Her voice echoed like distant waterfalls through every branch above them. "I do not seek your humiliation." Kofi stood cautiously, refusing to release his spear despite the overwhelming power surrounding her. "Where is my sister?" he demanded. The queen regarded him silently before extending one graceful hand. Within her glowing palm appeared a vision of Amina, sleeping peacefully inside a chamber woven from enormous roots, untouched by chains or wounds. "She is safe because I have chosen patience," the queen replied. "Whether she remains safe depends entirely upon your choices." Anger overcame Kofi despite the vision. "If she is unharmed, release her immediately," he shouted, gripping his spear tightly. The queen sighed deeply, sadness softening her radiant face. "You judge before understanding," she answered gently. "I did not bring your sister here to punish her. I brought her because the prison beneath this forest weakens with every passing season." She pointed toward the trembling ground beneath their feet. "The devourer grows stronger each year. Soon these sacred roots will no longer hold." Django lowered his head silently, unable to deny the terrifying truth any longer before Kofi's disbelieving eyes. The queen waved her hand gently, revealing another vision within the air. Kofi watched enormous roots beneath the forest slowly turning black, cracking apart as dark smoke escaped through widening gaps. Deep below, countless crimson eyes opened inside endless darkness. Every heartbeat shook the prison walls more violently than before. "The forest chooses one guardian every 7 years," the queen explained quietly. "Not to destroy them, but to strengthen these dying roots with a willing soul." Kofi finally understood why one traveler never returned. They had never been victims. They had become the forest's eternal protectors through unimaginable sacrifice instead. Horror washed across Kofi's face as the queen spoke the words he feared most. "Your sister has been chosen as the next guardian." Time itself seemed to stop. Django closed his eyes in silent grief, knowing no family willingly accepted such a fate. Kofi stepped forward, fury burning within him. "Never!" he roared. "My sister will not spend eternity buried beneath these roots." The queen's glowing eyes met his unwavering gaze without anger. "Then another must willingly take her place," she replied softly. Before Kofi could answer, the forest shook violently as the devourer's roar erupted louder than ever before. The deafening roar shattered the uneasy silence as towering trees swayed violently above the ancient shrine. Thick roots burst through the earth, splitting stone and sending clouds of dust into the air. Deep beneath the forest, the heartbeat of the imprisoned devourer quickened with terrifying force. The queen lifted one glowing hand, and emerald light spread through the trembling ground, slowing the monstrous rhythm. Her expression revealed exhaustion hidden behind centuries of unwavering strength. "The prison weakens faster than ever," she whispered. "Soon my power alone will fail, and nothing within this forest will survive its awakening, or mankind." Kofi refused to surrender. "If another guardian is needed, I will take my sister's place," he declared boldly. Django looked toward the queen with quiet concern, while she regarded Kofi with sorrowful admiration. "Your courage honors your ancestors' forgotten oath," she replied. "But becoming a guardian is not simply dying beneath these roots. Only one proven worthy may strengthen the prison." She turned toward a narrow path hidden between colossal trees. "You must complete the forest's 3 sacred trials. Fail even one, and both you and your sister will belong to the devourer forever." Silence followed her solemn warning. Without another word, the queen touched Kofi's lion pendant, Brilliant green light surrounded him, carrying him and Django across the forest in a single heartbeat. When the light faded, they stood before an immense stone archway wrapped with glowing vines. Beyond it stretched a dark valley filled with whispering fog. Strange echoes drifted through the air, repeating forgotten names in familiar voices. "This is the Valley of Echoes," Django explained quietly. "Here, fear borrows the voices of those you trust most." Kofi tightened his grip upon his spear, determined not to let memories cloud his judgment or courage today. As Kofi stepped into the valley, the fog thickened around him until Django disappeared completely. Every direction looked identical beneath twisted branches and drifting silver mist. Suddenly, a familiar voice called softly behind him. "Brother, please help me." Kofi turned instantly. Amina stood only a few steps away, her indigo wrapper stained with blood, tears streaming down her frightened face. She reached desperately toward him. "They're hurting me," she cried. Kofi rushed forward, but remembered Django's warning. He stopped abruptly. The girl's smile twisted unnaturally as her body dissolved into crawling black insects before vanishing inside the mist forever. The valley grew unnaturally silent after the illusion vanished. Then another voice echoed through the fog, deeper and painfully familiar. "My son." Kofi's heart pounded. Slowly emerging from the mist came his late father, dressed in the same hunting garments he had worn before disappearing years earlier. His warm smile seemed real, his eyes filled with love. "You have grown strong," he said gently. "Come with me. Leave this cursed place behind." Tears filled Kofi's eyes, but he noticed one impossible detail. His father cast no shadow. Instantly, the ground beneath the figure cracked open, revealing endless darkness below. The smiling figure stretched out both hands toward Kofi, standing peacefully above the widening crack. "You have suffered enough," his father said warmly. "Forget your sister. Forget the queen. Come home with me." Every word struck Kofi's heart like an arrow. For years he had dreamed of hearing his father's voice again. His grip upon the spear weakened as memories of childhood flooded his mind. Then the lion pendant against his chest suddenly grew hot, burning through his tunic. Kofi remembered Elder Bako's warning. The forest remembers every broken promise. He stepped backward instead of forward, choosing painful truth over comforting illusion. The false hunter's gentle smile twisted into something monstrous. His face cracked apart like dried earth, revealing rows of jagged black teeth beneath rotting flesh. His eyes became empty pits glowing with crimson fire. A chorus of ghostly voices erupted from the surrounding mist, laughing as countless shadowy hands reached upward from the widening crack. "You rejected love," the creature hissed. "Now embrace despair." Kofi planted his feet firmly, lifted his spear, and answered calmly. "My father taught me courage, not surrender." The monster shrieked furiously as its body exploded into swirling smoke, carried away by invisible winds forever. The silver fog gradually disappeared, revealing the valley exactly as it truly existed. Ancient stone statues lined the winding path ahead, each depicting frightened travelers frozen with expressions of hopeless despair. Some reached toward invisible loved ones, while others knelt in silent surrender. Django emerged from behind one weathered monument, relief evident upon his lined face. Very few survive the Valley of Echoes, he admitted. Most become prisoners of their own grief before taking 10 steps. Kofi silently studied the statues. Every carved face reminded him that the greatest enemy inside the forest was not always claws or teeth, but fear itself. A deep horn echoed across the forest, louder than thunder. Every statue trembled as birds burst from the trees in frightened flocks. Django's face immediately darkened. "We have no time," he warned urgently. "The first trial is complete, but the devourer sensed your victory." They hurried along the narrow trail until towering cliffs surrounded them. Between the cliffs stood two enormous stone doors carved with ancient symbols. One displayed a blazing sun, the other a silver moon. Neither possessed handles or visible openings. Strange growls echoed from behind both doors, promising danger regardless of whichever path awaited beyond the ancient surfaces. Before either man could approach the mysterious doors, emerald light shimmered across the clearing. The forest queen appeared silently between them, her flowing robes stirring despite the still air. She looked proudly at Kofi before speaking. "You conquered illusion because your heart still distinguishes truth from desire." With one graceful gesture, both stone doors slowly opened. Behind the sun door blazed endless fire. Beyond the moon door stretched a frozen wasteland beneath black stars. The queen's luminous eyes met Kofi's unwavering gaze. "Choose wisely," she said softly. "Only one path leads to your sister. The other awakens death itself." Kofi stood motionless between the two ancient doors, while waves of unbearable heat poured from the path of the blazing sun and icy winds howled from the moonlit passage. The forest queen offered no guidance, her luminous eyes watching silently. Django tightened his grip upon his weathered staff, but remained equally silent, knowing this trial demanded Kofi's judgment alone. The hunter closed his eyes and steadied his breathing. "The forest tests more than strength," he whispered to himself. "It tests wisdom." Opening his eyes again, he studied both entrances carefully, searching for hidden truths instead of obvious dangers, before choosing. Kofi noticed something strange. Although fierce flames consumed the path beyond the sun door, no smoke drifted into the air. Likewise, the frozen passage beyond the moon door produced no visible breath despite its bitter cold. Kneeling beside the threshold, he touched the earth carefully. The ground beneath the fiery entrance felt surprisingly cool, while the soil before the frozen wasteland felt warm beneath his fingers. A faint smile crossed Kofi's face. "Appearances deceive," he murmured. Remembering the Valley of Echoes, he realized the forest often disguised truth beneath convincing illusions. Without hesitation, he stepped through the blazing sun doorway. The roaring flames vanished the instant Kofi crossed the threshold. Instead of burning fire, he found himself inside a breathtaking valley bathed in golden sunlight. Countless wildflowers stretched across gentle hills, while crystal streams shimmered beneath towering baobab trees. Birds sang joyful melodies, and warm breezes carried the fragrance of fresh blossoms. Yet something felt terribly wrong. Every flower faced away from the sun. Every bird flew without casting shadows. Even the flowing streams moved silently. Django appeared beside him, his expression troubled. "Beauty can conceal terrible dangers," he warned. Remain alert. The second trial has only just begun today. As they ventured deeper into the valley, laughter echoed across the hills. Children dressed in bright traditional clothing ran joyfully through the flowers, inviting Kofi to join them. Among them was Amina, smiling brighter than ever before. She embraced her brother tightly, appearing completely unharmed. "It's over," she laughed. "The queen released me. We can finally go home." Kofi desperately wanted to believe her, but something unsettled him. Looking closely, he noticed every child blinked at the exact same moment. Amina's embrace felt cold as stone. Slowly, he stepped away, refusing the comforting illusion, despite his aching heart once again.